Well, week one is here. The Raiders are set to take on the LA Chargers. Two teams ushering in new eras for their respective franchises. Let's get ready to talk some football. Sin City Beat starts right now.
From Las Vegas, this is Sin City Beat.
Hello and welcome to Sin City Beat. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Mike Davis. Now, Sin City Beat is the show that dissects the Vegas sports world through the eyes of the sports reporters and storytellers leading the charge. On today's show, we're going to dive into week one as the Raiders take on the Chargers. And joining the action today, we got Ray Brewer, managing editor of the Las Vegas Sun, our very own Vince Sapienza, sports anchor and reporter with Fox 5 Las Vegas, and Super Bowl champion and former Raider Leo Gray. Great to have you guys all with us. Now, week one is here, and both the Raiders and the Chargers are new look teams with brand new cultures. Later on in the show, we're going to be dissecting the Pierce versus Harbaugh conversation, but let's focus on right now week one and getting that W. Vince, give me a reason the Raiders are going to win on Sunday.
Defense. Defense. I'm going to go Denny Green for a minute. They need to be who we said they were. All training camp long, we have heard this is a Raiders defense, a top 10 talent, top 8 in the National Football League. From the opening drive, this needs to be a defense-led team. We know the offense is going to take a minute, maybe a drive or two to kind of get in a rhythm. Heck, they might even take a couple games to find a rhythm. The defense has to be good from the opening drive, from the moment the ball is snapped. Otherwise, the Raiders will not have a chance against this Chargers team who want to run it down your throat and take it to you, because this is going to be about intensity, physicality, and it starts with setting the tone on defense. Max, Christian are your leaders on this team.
Yeah.
They need to be leading in week one.
Well, you're alluding to Dennis Green's infamous rant, the Bears, was it? The Bears are who we thought they were, or whatever he was saying.
And we let him off the hook.
We let him off the hook. Well, let's talk about the identity of this team, because the face of the franchise is Max Crosby. But as going to preseason games, seeing what's happening, the shift in the culture, Antonio Pierce is almost himself becoming a face of this franchise. Leo, tell us a little bit about this shift that's occurring and taking on the personality of a head coach. What's that going to mean for a team that wants to punch you in the face, that wants to play defense?
Well, your best coaches are the ones that can inspire and motivate you. And the fact that he played for the Giants, he was a Super Bowl winner. He's from Los Angeles, Compton.
Yeah.
I mean, he has that hard exterior. He's a people person. The players can relate to him. It's a lot different. He's standing up in there and he's doing some of the drills with the guys. He's very active. I mean, it's a whole different vibe. I mean, and we saw it last year, the fact that the defense was playing. Vince is right.
Yeah.
I mean, they were out there. It reminded me of the old school Raiders back when I played. It was, you had the guys at Lester Hayes or whatever that would intimidate people. Max sets the tone for everybody.
Right.
So Max is out there. It's, a lot of players will talk about who could play back when we played. First of all, bigger, faster, they would kill us. But it's certain guys like Max that could play in any era.
Really?
And then, I like Jack Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's good.
He reminds me of a young Lester. He'll take a chance. He'll, step in there, pick a ball off, run it back. I mean, they got some players.
And that's saying
I'm excited about it.
Hey, that's saying something when players, when one guy from a Super Bowl champion from one era can say, a guy like that, Max Crosby, with that motor, can play in any era. So, Ray, tell me. A reason why we now know defense is the identity of this team, and there's a lot of things to get figured out on offense. What's a reason this team's going to lose on Sunday?
Well, the offense, to kind of double down on what everyone was saying, right? This team's going to be known for its defense. It's going to be known for Antonio Pierce's personality. But somehow they're going to have to score. And you got to run the ball, because if your defense is constantly on the field, they're going to get gassed. They're going to lose that energy that Pierce is infusing. So they got to continue that mentality on offense by establishing the run. The Chargers are going to do that because that's Harbaugh's calling card. So can the Raiders establish that run, set up some plays in the passing game? You don't want to, lean on Gardner Minshew to carry the load. You want him to be Brad Johnson,
Right.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, manage the game, get some long shots to Devontae. So for me, The offense is the big question mark. Listen,
Yeah.
the defense isn't going to pitch a shutout every week.
Well,
They're
it's
going to
like-
have to score.
But like you said, a good offense is in turn a good defense, you know, and it's in turn by getting the defense off the field. So it's going to be a lot of interesting stuff week 1, but we're just getting started here on Sin City Beat because, okay, each and every Sunday we know there's one-on-one battles going down in the trenches, but this game is going to feature one battle in particular that's going to be very interesting. Yes, we're breaking down Max Crosby versus top pick Joe Alt, top 5 guy from Notre Dame. That's coming up next.
You're watching Sin City Beat.
All right, welcome back to Sin City Beat. Well, on Sunday, face-off, the Raiders are going to face off with Max Crosby and against rookie 5th overall pick tackle Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Yes, the 6'8", 322-pound Alt is one big boy, and during the NFL draft, there was talk John Harbaugh and the Chargers would maybe snag Malik Neighbors, the exciting wideout from LSU, but Alt represents really the exact type of football Harbaugh wants to play. We're all curious to see if Alt can contain Max Crosby on Sunday or if Max Crosby is just going to break the game wide open. So, Leo Gray, take me back to your first game as a rookie. What was going through your mind? Is there anything that can get you prepared for that first game on an NFL field?
Well, when I played, the veterans pretty much relaxed all the rookies. So you were in a situation where you knew what the game plan was. You knew what you had to do. If you weren't a starter, it was a little bit different than the ones that actually started. So you were nervous. I mean, you're always going to be nervous, but you just go through a mental state of the playbook for that week. And you process that and you visualize yourself making great plays. Al taught that, Al Davis. You know, visualize the play before you even run it. So you get out there. So it was a bunch of positive thoughts and images. And I mean, you deal with the awe of this is pro football. Wow, look at the people in the stands. I mean, all the excitement is there. But I mean, I think the Raiders more so than other teams had the ability, the veterans, to relax.
Well, let me
rookies.
ask you this then. No matter how many positive images Joe Alt goes through in his mind, what is it going to be like for him going up against Max Crosby day 1?
He probably won't sleep the night before. It's going to be tough. He's going against, arguably, the best defensive lineman in pro football, in my mind. One that could have played in any era. I mean, Max is a beast, and he's going to school. He's going to get taught.
I love it.
Yeah.
Listen, James, our producer, he loves Max Crosby. He loves Joe Alt, but I don't know. I mean, I think this is going to be an interesting matchup there, but there's a lot of matchups that are going to be going down in this game just beyond that one. We also got Ladd McConkey from Georgia, pass catcher, playing for the Chargers. The Raiders obviously took Brock Bowers. Vince, I mean, McConkey, Brock Bowers, who's going to be the rookie stud that's going to break this game open?
Well, first thing
game
first,
1?
Leo basically just said Joe Alt better bring an apple because he's going to school on Sunday in LA. So that's fantastic stuff right there. But in terms of your question, Brock Bowers is been wrapped in bubble wrap. The last 2.5 weeks, he's been nursing a little bit of a foot issue. I won't call it an injury just yet until we we see him missing practice. But
Yeah.
he's been wrapped up. This guy's going to be playing all over the field. I mean, he's been lining up at fullback, both tight end spots in that 12 personnel, as well as in the slot. I wouldn't be surprised if he was out solo on one side as an X in some of these formations that Luke Getzey's has. In terms of volume and targets, Devontae Adams is the guy for the Silver and Black. Brock Bowers is that next guy, and he is going to get a lot of volume, a lot of targets. So when I look at Ladd McConkey or Brock Bowers, I know Ladd has the quarterback in terms of 1 or 2, but Brock Bowers is the ultimate weapon. When we've talked to the Raiders defense and they were taking offense to school during training camp, they could not say enough about the mismatches Brock Bowers is going to create on Sunday.
2 Georgia guys, it's going to be exciting to see. Ray, tell us, I mean, from what you're looking at, I think run game from an offensive standpoint, no Josh Jacobs anymore. So now we got Zamir White. What do you think about this guy? Do you think he's going to be able to be the running back that this team needs to kind of get the offense moving? Because like Vince said, we don't have Justin Herbert. So the run game is going to help the pass game.
So I think what you've seen in the NFL evolve over the last few years is the days of a team having like Emmitt Smith and him getting 25 carries is not there anymore. So you're talking not only Zamir White, but who's the second running back, who's the third running back. What could you have some directional runs? So I don't think it's going to be, hey, here's the ball, run between the tackles. I think it all comes down to scheming. Are the Raiders going to have a good enough game plan to where they could get their playmakers in space, right? And, ultimately the run game is going to set up the pass, play action to Devontae. I think Devontae is still a top 5-10 receiver. I know those people that play fantasy are probably drafting him a little behind that because of the quarterback situation, but
Right.
It's all scheming. Could you get your playmakers in the position to have success? If you're going to give White the ball and say, hey, run into this wall, he can't do that, because Josh Jacobs might have done that, and when he's 2 years ago when he led the league in rushing,
Yeah.
he was able to break through, but we're not going to see that from Zamir White. He's going to need to get the ball into space.
Yeah.
Set up, if you could have just a little success, you set up the play action pass, and now all of a sudden your quarterback looks a little better.
Yeah, it's going to be about playmakers, and that's really why they drafted Brock Bowers, a true playmaker. But now, guys, we need another one-on-one battle that we're going to have to dissect on Sunday. How about going from one sideline to the other? Coming up after the break, we're talking Antonio Pierce versus John Harbaugh. Fresh off a national championship at Michigan, John Harbaugh is back in the NFL. This time, he's tasked with saving a different California team. The Chargers have a franchise QB, exciting talent, both young and old, yet they have lacked the ability to do anything really remarkable when it comes to the playoffs. Now, John Harbaugh hopes to change that, and when it comes to the Raiders, ironically, Tom Telesco, the GM that built most of this Chargers roster, is now in the same role with, yes, the Raiders. So new GM, a newly inked deal with a full-time head coach, Antonio Pierce, plus a new quarterback in Gardner Minshew. There's a lot of new for this Raiders team. So Ray Brewer, let's talk Harbaugh and Pierce specifically. Which coach has more to prove on Sunday?
I would say Pierce, absolutely, because Harbaugh has won a national championship in college. He's been to the Super Bowl in the pros. He's regarded as one of the elite football coaches, regardless of level. Pierce is in his ninth game as a head coach. He was very much a surprise pick, you could argue, to be the Raiders head coach. And, both teams, obviously every team in the NFL wants to get off to a great start, but I think it's more significant for the Raiders to get off to a good start when you look at, you've got to play the Chiefs twice in that division. The AFC is stacked this year. And every game matters, especially with a team that you're equal with, and you don't want to start 0-1 and then that could turn into 0-2, because the opportunities to pick up wins are very slim.
Yeah.
So I think there's obviously more pressure on Pierce. I think Harbaugh's got a longer contract as well. He doesn't necessarily have to win in year one. I think Pierce needs to take care of business right away.
Okay, yeah, listen, AFC West, it's a tough division. Two coaches with very similar, philosophies from that standpoint, Vince,
Yeah, nearly identical. They love to run the ball. I know we didn't see that a lot out of Antonio Pierce and the Raiders, but that's because they were in a quarterback battle all during training camp. They were trying to sort that out. Antonio Pierce loves to run the ball. He loves defense. He loves his linebackers. Jim Harbaugh, being a former quarterback, understands and appreciates the linebacker position. But when you talk about having more to prove, I wish I could disagree with Ray, but I agree it's Antonio Pierce. And not for the reason in terms of a contract, or I think it's more so to prove that he's an NFL coach. Like, everybody knows he's the ultimate motivator. He can communicate. He built relationships. There was a reason guys like Max Crosby, Devontae Adams were banging on the table when going into Mark Davis's office saying, you need to hire this guy.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with his credentials, because he didn't have NFL coaching credentials. It's because of the way he communicated. It's the way he appreciated the players and let them be their play. Now, that being said, all that's great until the white lines get on the field and the headset goes on. He's got to win.
Yeah.
I think he has to prove, not necessarily to his players, but he needs to prove to the bigger allotment, like, hey, I can coach in this league. And I think that's why it's going to be, I wish I was there Saturday night to hear that motivational speech. from AP. Would that not be something to be a fly on that wall? Because we know how good he is at being a communicator, a great orator, as they say in our business. But man, that speech leading into a division foe week 1 on the road.
I mean, these are two motivating guys. Leo, you know, from does that play a big role? I mean, to really have a coach who's a player's coach, to get a motivating speech from him, would that really psych you up more so than a guy who is a little bit more curmudgeonly? I mean, Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, I don't think of those guys as the dudes who are going to get you jacked up before a game, but they put you in a position to succeed on the field. So how do you differentiate that, and what would you rather as a former player?
I mean, the timing is different now compared to before. Today's modern social media athlete is a lot different. And a person that comes in and can, you know, inspire and motivate, I would prefer to have that. So I know these guys, we saw it last year, the way they responded when he, you know, took over. I mean, you saw people doing stuff you haven't seen in a long time. A guy, you know, just taking a chance, picking off a ball. You didn't see guys doing that. They'll stay right in the area that they're zoned for, and it wasn't, don't try to be creative or whatever. I see a lot of similarities of the team now to back in the day, meaning the quarterback. Plunkett wasn't the starter in '80. I'm going way back, but Jim Plunkett was not the starter. Dan Pastorini was.
Yeah.
Dan broke his leg, then Plunkett came in. Everything changed because Plunkett just knew how to motivate everybody, drive the ball downfield, keep everything moving, and just took it and ran from it. But in the locker room, you had Al Davis, you had Tom Flores motivating you and telling you we could do all things, we could do this. We were favored to lose, like out of the 16 games, I think 15 games that year. We ended up going 11-5, went in as a wild card team, won the two playoff games, played the AFC Championship against the Chargers, and ended up going to the Super Bowl. We were favored to lose the Super Bowl against the Eagles, and won. But it was all based on, you had a lead owner of the team that was constantly motivating and driving people, telling them you could do everything. I don't care what they say on paper, what Pittsburgh has done all year long, what the Chargers have done all year long. It doesn't matter. We're going. So it does help.
All right.
And I would prefer to have a Antonio Pierce, even though I like Harbaugh.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's next? We're talking predictions. Don't go anywhere. Sin City Beat is going to be right back after a short break. All right, welcome back to Sin City Beat. Well, last season the Raiders finished 8-9, having both Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce as head coaches. Now, Pierce heads into his first full season as a head coach, hoping to break the 2-year streak of missing out on the playoffs this season. According to Sharp Football Analysis, the Raiders face the 9th toughest schedule in the NFL. Now, Vince, will the Raiders be playoff bound this season, and what's your record prediction?
Leo, don't look at me right now. Leo, don't. I'm going to say no, they're not playoff bound. I have them between 7 and 8 wins. The sports books have them at 6.5. I like the over on that at 7 to 8 wins. I just think at the end of the day, it comes down to the quarterback, and this is a league of the haves and the have-nots. And while I think Gardner Minshew is a fine quarterback in his own right, the Raiders are in the have-nots in terms of that elite Superman hero type quarterback, which is what I think caps their ceiling no matter what. That being said, I like them week 1 against the Chargers. 24-20.
Okay, there you go. I like the prediction. 7 to 8 wins, though, isn't all. I mean, that's not that. It's middle of the road, you know? I mean, it's
middle of the road. I don't think is going to be good enough to get that final wild card spot in the AFC. So I have them just missing out, which is kind of purgatory when it comes to the draft. But I think they exceed the sportsbooks' expectations.
Interesting. Ray, what about you prediction-wise? Is this a playoff team, and what's their record look like?
So I'd like to switch seats with somebody before I say that. But I have them winning like 5, maybe 6 games.
Whoa!
I think the Raiders, their starters are very capable. We all know that throughout the season in the NFL, people get banged up, and when you've got to dip into your reserves, then you struggle, especially on offense where they're not that great. And I just don't see them scoring enough points to keep up. And I think that defense gets worn out. And I think they want to get a good draft pick to get a quarterback in the future. My humble opinion, doesn't mean it's going to happen. Sorry, Leo.
But
And,
hey, listen, that's what the Sin City Beat. It's all about honesty. We want your
You're here
real,
for my
honest
opinion.
takes, and we like the opinion. Leo, how you feeling over there? Tell us, what are you thinking?
I disagree with you guys.
Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think I would say 9 or 10 games. I'll say a wild card or whatever, but I think it's going to be a whole different look. I don't think we can't use preseason as a yardstick for what's about to happen, because you hide, a lot of the stuff that you're going to do during the season.
So
I think we're going to see that.
This team, it's going to look even, listen, when he comes in and gets the job from an interim standpoint after McDaniels is fired, you're still not really fully getting a full grasp of what this new look team's going to feel like. So you're saying we're going to see a brand new everything.
Yes, I think he's going to be creative. He's going to do a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. They need to do, but they're not going to do. They're going to do it.
See, I love that. And Vince, to me, it's scary because when you're playing for a job, sometimes you tense up, just like in real life. You tense up. Is he going to feel?
Not us, but yeah, other people.
Hey, I do it sometimes. We got 1 minute. Is he going to be free enough with himself and take the chances that this team?
Pierce?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I don't think this season or this week has anything to do with Antonio Pierce, and I mean that as a compliment. I don't think this season will be a reflection on him. I think he's insulated himself really well with Marvin Lewis, Tom Coughlin, in terms of needing to know what he needs to know, because he's been honest saying, I don't know what I don't know. That being said, like I said, this is a league of haves and have-nots, and you either have a quarterback or you don't. Do you have the upper echelon quarterback or not? I don't think that's going to be a reflection on Antonio Pierce at the end of the day. I think Gardner Minshew will dictate how far this team can go.
All right. I love it. Guys, thank you so much for being here. The great Leo Gray, Ray Brewer, Vince Sapienza. I'm Mike Davis. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great week 1. NFL football is back, baby. We'll see you next time.